The Goosebumps Season 1 finale was packed with surprises, but the teens weren't in a good place at the end. The Goosebumps 2023 Season 1 finale might not have killed off the characters' parents as the villain threatened, but the ending was still surprisingly dark. Goosebumps 2023 has been a darker reinvention of author R.L. Stine's iconic novel series throughout its 10-episode run. The show told the story of a group of teenagers plagued by cursed items and a possessed teacher, only to eventually discover that the ghost of Harold Biddle, a teenager their parents knew, was behind everything. While the ending of Goosebumps Episode 8 wrapped up the show's story, Episode 9 saw the desperate Mr. Bratt, Justin Long, bring Slappy back to life so that he can finish his novel. Slappy wasn't content living as a doll and soon convinced Bratt to return him to his human body. Slappy became Kanduu, the powerful sorcerer, and the Goosebumps 2023 Season 1 finale, Welcome to Horrorland, explained the entire backstory of this menacing figure. It turned out Kanduu was around before Slappy and his plan was darker than it seemed, spelling continued trouble after Goosebumps Season 1's ending. Kanduu's backstory and how he transformed into Slappy. Kanduu's experience of war made him a monster. Disney's Goosebumps teen cast using their phones as flashlights down a corridor with Sloppy the dummy. Kanduu was originally a soldier who was shot on the battlefield. As he bled out, he hid in an underground tomb with walls that were covered in inscriptions. Reading one of these cured Kanduu's seemingly lethal bullet wound, and he soon started to use this dark magic to his advantage. Whereas Goosebumps 2023's original villain Harold Biddle just wanted to be popular in high school, Kanduu had loftier evil plans. He saw war as a disease that ravaged humanity and argued that people could only be cured of this illness if they were given something much worse than each other to fear. When Kanduu met a carnival proprietor, Mahar, he offered him an opportunity he couldn't refuse. The struggling carnival owner made beautiful puppets, but his business was failing. Kanduu could perform real dark magic and was willing to help Mahar's business once the character assisted his nefarious plans in return. While Mahar initially agreed to these terms, like both Bratt and Ephraim, he eventually reneged on the deal. Mahar then transformed Kanduu into Slappy the dummy so that the villain wouldn't be able to hurt anyone else, even though Mahar lost his life in their ensuing scuffle. Why Kanduu turned the people of Port Lawrence into dummies? The Goosebumps 2023 villain needed compliant subjects. A terrified Mr. Bratt stares at something in Goosebumps 2023 Season 1 with a chandelier in the background. Turning people into dummies was the only way to make them agree to Kanduu's grisly plan. In the case of both Mahar and Bratt, Kanduu met them at desperate points in their lives. Mahar wanted to keep his failing carnival open, while Bratt needed an ending for his novel lest he lose a valuable publishing opportunity. As such, they were willing to temporarily go along with Kanduu's plan. However, both of them eventually backed out when they realized the plan was evil. Consequently, like many of R.L. Stine's classic Goosebumps villains, Kanduu took this option to choose away from Port Lawrence's residents, effectively freezing their consciousnesses by turning them into dummies. Kanduu's spiral tower and sacrifice plan explained. Kanduu hoped to kill Port Lawrence and unleash hell. Slappy the dummy's head on a stick laying on the floor in Goosebumps. Kanduu argued that unleashing a swarm of real-life monsters on the world would force humanity to unite under a common purpose, thus ensuring that all wars ended. To achieve this goal, he needed to sacrifice 1,000 people by burning them alive in a ritual on a spiral tower. Mahar initially accepted this setup but soon got cold feet, whereas Bratt never learned the details of Kanduu's plan until it was too late. Goosebumps teen characters were horrified by the idea, even though Kanduu seemed to think that their trauma would lead them to agree with his plan. Unfortunately for the magician, they were pretty effective at putting a stop to it. How Isaiah, Margot and the group stopped Kanduu. A clever trick confused the magician. The group of teens tricked Kanduu into thinking that his old partner had returned from the grave when, in reality, Mr. Bratt was standing in for Mahar. This briefly worked and, for a moment, it looked as if things would end happily. However, in a nasty twist borrowed from R.L. Stine's darker Goosebumps books, the villain caught onto their plan and broke out of his trance. However, he was too late to stop Margot from reading the incantation that turned him human again and killed him. Still, Kanduu did manage to do a little more damage on his way out of Port Lawrence. Isaiah's death and resurrection explained. Margot's incantation seemingly saved Isaiah's life. Zach Morris as Isaiah in Goosebumps 2023 looking around a dark corner cautiously. Isaiah, Zach Morris, was shot in the Goosebumps 2023 Season 1 finale after Margot, Isa Briones, found the right incarnation to stop Kanduu and the villain reverted to his soldier self. As his wounds killed him and he was dragged off to hell, Kanduu fired his service revolver and hit Isaiah in the chest. Things seemed bleak for Isaiah, but Margot spoke an incantation at the hospital that seemed to affect his health positively.